Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Gun Show. No, I'm just kidding. Welcome to a surprise stream. Surprise, surprise. We may or may not be joined by Jason. It really depends on when he clicks the link. So, from what it looks like, he says it'll be a minute. I'm down to wait for a second in the time being, and also wait for more people to hop in here because I've got some commentary that I'd like to supply. Oh, there we go. The algorithm's kicking in. There are 6 people here now. Yeah. You guys coming in from the infrared perspective philosophy debate because I watched that shit. I watched about an hour of it and it was very fucking boring. I'm not going to lie. Debates with Paz are very boring when he's not shouting at people. So, I mean, make of that as you will. But then again, it is what it is. Hey guys, what's up? What's up? Love for everyone. Love for everyone. I wish I could give people hearts from here. Wish I could give people hearts. So, yeah, I'm still waiting on Jason. I'm going to give him a couple minutes before we get started with the video in question. But I wanted to do a live react to Kyle Kulinski's Secular Talk. I'm probably going to download this stream and re-upload it later because I finally figured out how to do that. It only took me like a month. I'm an idiot. But yeah, so in regards to this, the Dems always succeed. They just succeed in pursuing the interests of the wrong people. Well, I mean, that's obvious, but for whatever reason, Kyle feels the need to assert that the Democrats are just incompetent. The Democrats are incompetent. Like, he acknowledges on a surface level that they're corrupt, but this is something that a lot of, like, left-lib Chomskyites will assert is it's just incompetence. Or sometimes they'll attribute it to maliceness as well. I think malice has a little bit to do with it, but incompetence is not the answer. I do not believe these people are incompetent. No way at all. Here's what we're going to talk about while I wait for Jason, all right? But this grand political machine, all right? This great project. You guys are going to learn about American politics, all right? Burger politics. But we have the two-party system. All right? So let's have a little fun with this. We got our 2 parties, right? So 2 parties. So traditionally, you have your one-party states where you have the one party and all other political parties are banned, you know, good old one-party systems, good old one-party dictatorships. Well, the advantage of these is that, at least in theory, one-party systems are easier to hold to account. With 2 multi-party systems, it's harder to do that. And so the main advantage is, I guess I'll go ahead and explain why I'm in favor of a one-party dictatorship while I'm at it, while I wait on Jason. But the reason why I'm an advocate of a one-party system is, well, for one, again, easier to hold politicians accountable when there aren't any other political parties to blame for their mistakes. The other reason is also because rather than having the idea of having a democracy where we have all these political parties competing for clout in the same way that a corporation or corporations compete for market share or workers compete for employments, the whole concept of having groups compete against one another, you know, it's a very bourgeois concept. And I feel like that psychology sort of reproduces and reinforces, you know, the competitive mindset, which, you know, we don't want that if we're communists. We want a cooperative mindset. In the same manner that we want a cooperative system that's based on like free association and so on, we want a political system that's centered around cooperation as well. So that's the other reason. And speaking of political parties battling one another for clout, when you have a multi-party system with elections, all right, and this was a problem that even occurred in traditional one-party states to some extent because it was still based on voting. You end up in a situation where people are just going to say whatever they have to say in order to get elected. You end up with yes men, people that are just going to say whatever the hell they need to in order to get nominated to their post, to their position of power and authority. So rather than having a system where we vote for our candidates who are just going to pay lip service, and have that potential for corruption and abuse. I think what would be better is Cockshot's model of sortition democracy, where instead you train as many people as possible to fill out XYZ qualified positions, and then you have elections of sorts where candidates are chosen at random from pools of qualified individuals from the general public. And those people serve a term, and they can be recalled at any time from like their municipalities or their local or regional workers councils. They're directly recallable. They're directly held to account. They serve one term. We could call it a 5-year term. And if their performance was exceptional, and they did very well, then a vote could be cast then to maintain these people in their current position of government. In which case, there we go. Now we've got a pretense for voting. Otherwise, they could serve a second term, but other than that, after their second term, they're out. They've got their 10 years in this position. It's someone else's turn now. And you frequently cycle people through these positions so that you don't end up with a corrupt bureaucracy that ends up developing class interests separate from the proletariat. You want the proletariat themselves to directly have as much say and control over the decision-making process as humanly possible. You want to essentially transform the governance of people into the governance of people into the administration of things. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Jason, where the fuck are you? He gets here if he gets here. He doesn't. But as I was saying, so that's the general idea behind why I'm in favor of a one-party system. There doesn't need to be proletarian factionalism where we have to, because I've heard people argue that bourgeois factionalism serves the ruling class because of its competitive nature, because it offers that veneer of free choice. But like, if we're communists, why do we want to offer people a veneer of free choice? Why don't we just give them the choice and present it to them directly? The whole idea of having factionalism between parties, as I've said, just sounds like it kind of reaffirms and re-ferments like bourgeois psychology. I mean, so in my eyes, one-party system, that party should be held to account, and otherwise it should be just the central nervous system of the economy more than anything else. We need to get away from the whole idea of, competing for power and all that. I mean, that'll be, of course, a thing early on, but as we develop and we get closer and closer to having a society centered around the scientific method, we hopefully get to a point to where competition is a thing of the past, and instead we just have cooperation. And as we work towards higher and higher stages of communism. But that's not what I'm here to talk about today. I'm not here to talk about my ideal political system. I'm here to talk about the political system as is. So let me draw another triangle. So this is the one-party dictatorship. And what you guys are seeing right now is shaky ground. All right, little shaky ground. This is shaky ground. Right here, we've got our shaky ground. We've got our, hold on. You ready for this shit? You ready for this? We got our Civil War. We got our World War I. We got our World War II. We got our famine. We got another famine. We got yet another famine. We got monarchy. We got 75% peasant population. These are wildly different conditions from what Marx and Engels predicted for the revolution. So all this compounded on one another on top of embargo, Cold War, heavy-handed repression, and so on. Also, not enough democracy. You got all these issues that compound onto one. Oh, yeah, sabotage, imperialism, CIA. So, see that? You've got a worker state built on shaky ground, all right? This is our shaky ground. Here, we're about to find out why, despite everything, one of the reasons why America has been such a successful project, right? We don't have a one-party system. Instead, we have two. We have the Republicans and the Democrats. So we'll go ahead and have the Republicans. Actually, not. The Dems are the left wing, so we'll have them in blue, and then the Republicans in red. So here we have a country that has had a century head start to modernize on top of lots of resources, settler colonialism, imperialism, lot of benefits, lots and lots of benefits. Winning the geographical lottery is a big one. But the main thing I'm talking about right now is political. What is the point of America's political system, and why does it behave the way it does? What function does the two-party duopoly serve? And as you know, my audience is obviously familiar. The whole point of the two-party duopoly is bourgeois factionalism. That's the best way to put it. It's to give the veneer of choice by having two factions that are semi-different from one another, but also semi-similar. And they battle with one another for clout, re-elections, and so on. And, as long as people have these two choices, then, yeah, they can choose. The issue is that the choice is not meaningful. Not meaningful whatsoever. My little dog baby's here. Hi there, dog baby. Got my dog with me. But anyways, so the Democrats, they used to be the right wing. The Republicans, the roles have been switched since the 60s due to the Southern strategy. The Republicans are now the right wing, and the Democrats are now the left wing of the party. I mean, really, they're both right-wing parties relative to the global spectrum. But point is that the Democrats offer some sort of opposition or resistance to the most reactionary components of the dictatorship of capital. Here on the side of the Republicans, you have the raw, naked, just pure. It's the id. It's like the id, the ego, like the feral instinct of the unconscious minds of capital, just unleashing its will and imposing its will. This is what it is. It's just, they're not outright fascist, but they're pretty damn close. The Republican Party is essentially a crypto-fascist party, more or less. It's not fascist in like the Hitlerite sense, but when you go policy by policy, it's not too dissimilar. And then you have the Democrats on the other side, which really aren't that different. They're both warmongering neoliberal parties, but the Democrats serve as a kind of controlled opposition, so to speak, because both of them are on the payrolls of Big Pharma, Wall Street, and the military-industrial complex. So the Democrats offer as a position as opposition, controlled opposition, more or less. The whole point of this duopoly is that the two parties complement one another. They mirror one another. You have the Republicans, which are usually the strongmen who push to get things done. You have the Democrats, on the other hand, who are like the really timid, weak left of the party. And it's that way by design. They want to portray the left as weak, and they have a left that's weak. So what happens? You have weak candidates that you put up as the Democrats. You have all these quote unquote incompetent strategies. And at the same time, you don't try to put any pressure whenever they don't put any pressure when they are in Congress, when they do get voted in. Look at what happened with AOC and the Squad. AOC and the Squad totally folded on their original goals. Am I disconnecting? I'm just making sure. Just making sure I'm still connected. But anyways, it's the reason why they put up these bitch-made politicians that can't literally do anything. Like, they just literally don't. They don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to put anything on the line. And I feel like it's kind of a mirror of a bigger issue with U.S. politics in general. But the Democrats don't want to rock the boat. They just want to stay the coast and stay a boring, heartless, soulless, corrupt neoliberal party, right? And it's because of that the Democrats drive down voter turnout. Because if you don't have a candidate that stands for something, then people aren't going to be enthusiastic about coming out and voting. And if they don't feel enthusiastic about coming out and voting, then you guessed it, the Republicans, the big strong men, right-wingers right here, who actually do like filibuster, who actually do engage in tactics, who actually do like aggressively pursue their policies and will fight, the ones that are convicted because they stand for something, even though what they stand for is horrible, there's just enough people in this country who are either tricked into the Republican grift, or they genuinely, or they're part of the grift, basically, of the right wing. There's just enough of them that they can turn out and win elections. So the Democrats put up weak candidates like Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, who have all this political baggage, while on the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who pays lip service to populism and actually displays conviction and strength, the kind of conviction and strength that people like in a leader. And that's how we end up with Donald Trumps. That's how we end up with George Bushes. That's how we end up with these right-wing politicians, because turnout gets driven down. And I'll tell you something, guys, Republicans never get the majority of the vote. Like, straight up, if it wasn't for the Electoral College, as well as the fact that there's like active voter suppression and vote rigging that goes on in this country, the Republicans would never win another election again. Like, straight up. It would just be nothing but Democrats. But again, the whole point of the Democrats is they're controlled opposition. They help to prop the Republicans up. That's the point. It's not a glitch. It's a feature. And this is something that I'm going to hammer away at as we watch Kyle Kulinski's video. But before we do, I'm going to message Jason. Anyways, I'm going to read some comments. Same in Russia, by the way. All the old communists died out, or are having Euro-communists out. I mean, yeah, unfortunately, yeah, the politics, the political situation of Eastern Europe is absolutely screwed. Now, I think things here in the States are better, but over in Russia and over in like Eastern Europe, you effectively have anti-communism enshrined in your collective constitutions. I mean, the governments that took power after the dissolution of socialism basically made it so that, communists can never take power again. They bombarded all the new generation with fascist propaganda, like tons of far-right nationalist propaganda. And they suffer a lot of economic hardship and turmoil. So Eastern Europe are functionally a bunch of neo-colonies to the European Union. People are like, oh, they were just satellites to the USSR. The USSR actually gave these countries independence. They helped them develop self-sustaining economies and helped to prop them up and build them up. So, I mean, what are they now? They're just neo-colonies to NATO. They're neo-colonies to the EU, basically. But anyways, hello, guys. Hello. Hi, Jason.
Yes, very clearly, Somalia is much better off now than when it was with the Soviet Union or socialist.
Yeah, I mean, Somalia was just starting to improve. They were just starting to not suck until the fall of the USSR, basically.
Well, it's capitalist paradise now.
Oh, yeah. It's a pirate's paradise. So let me give you the context. I was about to watch this video by Kyle Kulinski, and I was just going to provide some commentary. And I just want to say that I do believe Kyle is in the right with respect to a lot of what he has to say. So if you want me to pause at any time, let me know. So
okay.
Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and roll it. I'm going to be playing it at a faster playback speed for brevity's sake.
Story came out Politico the other day. Be prepared to get angry. So they say House Dem campaign chief warns the majority at risk without message reboot. Quote, "We're not trying to hide this," the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee's executive director said. So, number of things here. They say, oh, it's just a messaging problem. Well, it is both a messaging problem and a substantive problem, as we're going to talk about. So let me just give you a little snippet from this article here. They say during a closed-door lunch last week with some of his most vulnerable incumbents, House Democrats campaign chief delivered a blunt warning. If the midterms were held now, they would lose the majority. Democrats would lose the majority if the midterms were held now. Representative Sean Patrick Maloney, following that bleak forecast, which was confirmed by multiple people familiar with the conversation, with new polling that showed Democrats falling behind Republicans by a half dozen points on a generic ballot in the battleground district.
The central consequence of your main campaign strategy being orange man bad, vote me. You lose the House and the Senate. you drive down voter turnout to nothing, and then Republicans start winning because all the people who otherwise would be out there voting are staying home, and Republicans turn out to vote for their candidates. So yeah, that's how Republicans get elected. You know what? I gotta say this: we do have a democracy. It's just really, really shitty
and really bourgeois.
Yeah, it really is. Like, there's no workers' representation. I mean, there's a bunch of laws in place that basically make it so like third parties can never get elected. And it just sucks because the only people who are like prominent left-wing voices are literally married to the Democrats. They are. Like, Kyle here is married to the Democrats. The same goes with a bunch of others, It's ridiculous.
Maloney advised the party to course correct ahead of 2022 by doing more to promote President Joe Biden's agenda. Okay, let's dissect this. They fell behind Republicans by 6 points on a generic ballot. That's a huge downturn. Now understand, the Democrats would need to win by like 4 or 5 or more in order to just keep the numbers they have now because of the fucking gerrymandering, which makes it like impossible for them to pick up seats or gain seats, and they're not doing anything about that. So it's not just that they can't be down 6. They can't even fucking tie or win by 1 or 2. They got to win by like 6, 7, 8 in order to like be competitive. So they're just way off base here. And again, Maloney advised the party to course correct ahead of 2022 by doing more to promote Joe Biden's agenda. Let's dissect that a little bit. For example, in this poll we learned, voters disapproved of Democrats' handling of the economy by a margin of 41 to 55. 41 to 55. So they're way underwater with the economy. They say, well, Biden is polling better than us, so we just all need to run as Biden Democrats, and that's how we win. What they don't tell you is Biden's numbers are plummeting too. Biden has dropped significantly since May.
All right, pause it. Gee, I wonder why. Maybe because he didn't live up to any of the things that he said he was going to do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, everyone at this point just knows that politicians like Biden, he's not going to do anything that he said he was going to do on the campaign trail. They're not legally obligated to fulfill their campaign promises. I don't know why people act surprised when, I voted for this person and nothing positive happens, because they legally don't have to try.
And not to mention the fact that the Democrats literally argued in court that they were not obligated to follow the popular vote on who the head of the party should be.
Whoa, yeah. So
Debbie Wasserman, Ziegen, Heil, and Schultz said that in the actual court case when people sued the Democratic Party because Bernie got the most number of votes.
Oh, of course.
And she literally argued in court, we are not obligated to follow the popular vote.
Dude, to 2016, Bernie Sanders should have been president, like straight up. If it wasn't,
never let it happen.
If it wasn't for the meddling and the vote rigging, like the straight up provable vote rigging, as well as all the suppression tactics that they use, as well as like straight up denying, like you just said in the court, that they can choose whoever nominee that they want. If it wasn't for all these issues compounded onto one another, Bernie Sanders would have ran and won against Trump, and Bernie Sanders would have been president.
But I wonder, come on, let's face it, Bernie Sanders wouldn't have accomplished anything much.
Well,
they wouldn't have let him.
Well, yeah, like even if he won, the issue is like, unless we also got a shit ton of left Democrats of his caliber in the House and the Senate. I mean, just the House and the Senate, just packed full of them. That's what it would take to usher in any policies. And even if we were able to do that, you've got Wall Street that will do capital strike, for example. That's what they did during the FDR recession of 1937. FDR's very moderate reforms and agenda were too left for even like the most reactionary sects of the ruling class. So you want to know what they did? They just stopped investing because they were going to lose money, and they wanted to stay fucking rich, or they wanted to get fucking richer. So they were like, oh, we're just not going to invest, So capital strike. That's what's going to happen to Bernie Sanders.
Did the same thing in Canada too when Saskatchewan created the first universal healthcare system.
Yeah, so
They tried to bankrupt the entire province to prevent it from happening.
Yeah, so the moral of the story here is there is no substitute for class struggle. You can't substitute electoral politics for the real need to go out there and organize and shake up business as usual. You know?
I would also add that Venezuela's learned this the hard way.
Oh, absolutely. They're going down the reformist route, you know.
When they came in and they said, okay, we're going to do this all reforms, the capitalists went on strike. Now they did do the right thing, and they say, okay, well, fuck you. If you don't want to produce, then we'll seize your factory, give it to the workers, and then let them run it. But the thing is, you should have seized that shit from the beginning.
Yeah, because what happened?
Then you get shortages.
Oh yeah.
Well, now they're not producing anything. They're saying, "Oh, we can't turn a profit. Everybody's so poor. Hand over the entire company to the workers." Oh, look, it's productive again. Because I remember watching the video, the first box of cornflakes that came off the assembly line after the workers took over the means of production. I mean, that's right. I mean, if you're not going to fucking produce, fuck you. Then we're going to take it and give it to somebody who will use it.
Yeah.
No different than seizing the land and giving it to the people who work it.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
But they should have done that from the beginning.
They should have, dude. Like, how are you just gonna sit here and just try and pussyfoot around the need to just get rid of the ruling class? Like, just seize the capital. Like, just seize the capital. That's what needs to be done. Take the capital, and then you can run the economy according to a rational plan. But no, like, I don't know why. Kyle is older. He's a poli-sci major in his 30s. I don't understand why this very obvious rationale does not come to more politically minded people.
I will give you an argument why. A revolution is not in his interests. He doesn't. He doesn't want egalitarianism. He doesn't want he doesn't want real shit. He wants the nice, soft democratic reforms. Capitalism with a human face. That's what he wants. That shit doesn't work.
Yeah. Like his brand of politics is literally going to get us nowhere. All right. Yeah. Want to know what's going to get us somewhere come October? It's going to be the coming general strike that's being tweeted around and about the country.
If it happens.
If it happens.
I'm skeptical that it'll happen, but I mean, by all means, do it.
Like, dude, we're on the cusp of an evictions crisis, the likes of which we've never seen, and workers aren't using their number one bargaining chip to make sure that doesn't happen. We could seriously just have a general strike, be like, we're not going to work again until you forgive the whole country's debt rent. Do universal rent forgiveness, we'll go back to work. And what are they going to do about that? Force everyone to work?
Honestly, what they're probably going to do about it is just give free money to the banks. Okay, everybody who couldn't pay their mortgage, like all the landlords that couldn't pay their mortgage, here's money off the Fed and all that debt's paid. Yeah, that's what they would do.
I wonder when the hyperinflation is going to kick in. I'm not going to lie.
The problem with hyperinflation is that it generally has to be a state, a state of being in which there is a lack of mobility of capital. Because there's a lot of misinformation regarding inflation and how it works. If you have a sudden contraction of the economy, like say right after the Soviet Union was dissolved, yeah, there was X amount of money because it was facilitating X amount of economic activity. If that economic activity disappears, then yes, there would be more money in the system than there's necessary, and you would have inflation. But having money isn't what caused the inflation. It was the lack of economic activity. So technically, a general strike, if went on long enough, could actually cause inflation. So this being that it's just simply free money out to the banks who are just going to keep it on their books and not let it flow out into the general economy, because then they wouldn't have the money anymore, it wouldn't cause inflation. That's why I don't think it's really going to happen. Inflation really happens when there's a sudden and sharp contraction of the economy, like crisis. If anything is going to cause inflation, that's what's going to be it.
Yeah, I always thought because America has the world reserve currency, the dollar, and the dollar is always in demand, then the threshold by which we experience hyperinflation is going to be significantly higher.
If everybody just suddenly said "fuck you" and stopped using the U.S. dollar all of a sudden, then there would be inflation because there would be a reduction in the amount of economic activity that used that particular dollar.
Right. So I'm going to skip a little further ahead here to right here. Because honestly, it's the naivete of Kyle's mindset that really irritates me. Because I've been watching him for the last 4 or 5 years, and he has been saying the same shit for the last 4 to 5 years without improving at all. Like, whatsoever. Like, he still has the same mindset of, oh, the Democrats are just naive. No, they're fucking not. They know what they're doing.
Things that you did relentlessly until everybody knows it. So if you were one of these elected Democrats, you shouldn't go a single interview without bringing up the stimulus checks that you did, or the child tax credit, which is phenomenal policy that's helping so many people, or the Biden did the $15 an hour minimum wage for federal contractors and for federal workers and for tipped federal workers. So now there's no exception to the minimum wage when it comes to the federal government. Everybody gets paid at least $15 an hour. Bring that up. Bring up the good things. Or the second thing you could do is do more good things. Do more good things. This is like they pass some watered down bare minimum shit, and then they don't brag about it and pretend like it's the best thing ever, which by the way, those things are good, but they're just bare minimums. They don't brag about it, and then they're not talking about like, well, fuck, we should probably do some more good shit for people so that we become popular again. Why would you not cut another stimulus check, for example? Why would you not try to do universal basic income? Why would Joe Biden not break out that executive order pen and legalize marijuana or decriminalize marijuana or eliminate student loan debt or eliminate $50,000 worth of student loan debt? You either have to brag about the good shit you did, which they're not doing. Nobody even brings up the child tax credit in interviews if they're Democrats. They don't say anything. They don't brag about the good stuff, and they don't fight for more good stuff.
That's what pisses me off about this government so much. It is completely within their power to institute these policies that Kyle is talking about, but they just don't.
Yeah, a lot of it is just outright irrational. Okay.
It is.
I think most of, I mean, let's face it, marijuana is mostly illegal because they want a war on drugs.
Yeah.
I mean, there doesn't even need to be a war on drugs. They just want it to be there, and they want it to criminalize certain parts of the population. But let's face it, every other country in the world, advanced industrialized nation, acknowledges, okay, you legalize marijuana, make it run by the state, or just leave it open to, private business. Either way, you're going to make a shitload of money. I mean, why sit there with something that with idiots in Congress testifying that marijuana is just as bad as heroin, in which case you're fucking stupid if you can compare marijuana to heroin. And there's such an opportunity to make money, and this is the basic premise of capitalist ideology, is a profit motive. There's a shitload of profit to be made. I could just see how much profit Ontario has made since it legalized marijuana. In my fucking city, there is now more marijuana stores than there are Tim Hortons. Explain that. I mean, the damn money is there. I mean, there's nothing that outnumbers Tim Hortons here.
Well,
but now marijuana stores do. Even if it was just run by the state and they just collected tax money, that would be an ass load of revenue. Look at Colorado when they legalize it. They practically their actual budget, their actual fiscal year budget increased by almost depending 30 to 50% just because they legalized weed. There's no rational basis for stopping this other than you want to criminalize a certain section of the population, enough reasons to want to throw people in jail so that private prisons can make enough money. Well, which is it? You're going to criminalize the population to make money, or are you just going to let them have the damn leaf and make money? Well, what's it going to be? Because I can tell you this right now, a private prison is just a fucking leech on the government, whereas if the government just legalized weed and then sold it themselves, it'd be nothing but a cash cow.
You've got these, yeah, exactly. The private prison system, they're just parasites. They just leech money, government revenue, and they contract out slave labor to private corporations. So I guess you got that. You got prisoners getting paid pennies an hour to manufacture stuff while they're serving their sentence.
If you had
otherwise, no, we could seriously revive our economy and generate a great deal of tax revenue. There's no rational basis, like you said, no rational basis for keeping cannabis criminalized. We could cut our prison population in half because half of the people that are in jail are there for drug-related crimes anyways. So we decriminalize all these drugs. We decriminalize weed. and we legalize, tax, regulate, that would help the economy and grant such massive material gains. But no, we got to have this repressive apparatus that just literally oppresses people. And, we got to give employers, because of their little insurance bullshit, the ability to piss test you so that they can control what you do in your private life arbitrarily,
Yeah, not to mention that if you did do that, and half of everybody would be out of jail, now the state is spending less money on people throwing in jail. So the at least the state coffers would be doing a lot better, although the private ones who make money off it would be doing less. So you'd be spending less. The state would be spending less money to throw people in jail, and they'd be making more money off of selling weed. I mean, this is like a fucking no-brainer. If the state were an enterprise, it would be stupid to be doing what it's doing right now. I mean, let the people out of jail. Guess what? Now you just expanded the labor pool. And when you got more people working, it's in their favor, because now they can reduce the cost of labor by expanding the pool of it available. Simple supply and demand, just from every angle. They're stupid.
America is in dire need of democratic reform. This country is rotting slowly from the inside out, and there are a lot of things that could save it. But the hubris of the ruling class, the hubris of the powers that be, will not let any of these policies pass unless they can secure their ultra profits and they can get fucking rich off of it. That's the only way any of this can happen. Even if it makes perfect sense. It's the reason why we don't have more of a state capitalist approach like China. It's because then they wouldn't be able to make immediate short-term profits, So the ruling class, it just eats itself. And, it's only a matter of time before the state sweeps in to save the ruling class from their own hubris and greed, as it has repeatedly historically in the past. But because the revolving door between politics and business, the fornication goes so deep that I don't think that's going to happen here in America. I think minor concessions will here and there, but ultimately what it's ultimately going to take to get anything meaningfully done is when people finally start fighting back. But people, and here's the contradiction behind that, people don't want to fight back because they have too much to lose. I can't go out and protest or partake in a general strike. I might lose my job. I've got too much vested in the system. Middle class is incredibly reactionary, man. Reactionary.
I would. Oh, damn it! I just forgot the point I was going to make.
It's really just that, middle class. The whole point of the middle class is to act as a buffer between the owners and the proletariat. They act as a buffer and a populist base of support for their shitty right-wing policies.
Okay, now I lost it again.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, damn it.
Well, maybe you'll think of it. I'm gonna play this.
Even with this negotiation with the infrastructure bill, nobody's out there repeatedly harping away on what's in the partisan reconciliation.
Okay, I remembered.
And by the way,
everything that we just described, there's one of two things: either there's going to be major democratic reform, or the system is going to crash. If the state doesn't stop being an idiot, in this case.
Well, what's going to happen is it's just going to grind. It's going to come to a grinding halt.
Yeah, so either there's going to be rational economic reform, and things get pumped up for a little bit before crisis happens again, or it's going to go into a terrible crash. I mean, what are we looking at? Socialism or barbarism?
Yeah. The only issue is we don't have a labor movement right now. There's no labor movement whatsoever. And the left that has emerged in the United States is a left of the middle class of the David Pacman and Kyle Kulinski mindset.
And every one of these, fucking geezers sitting around in the Federal Reserve, they all know that they need to do these reforms. The very top of the bourgeoisie, you don't become the head of the central bank if you don't know what you're doing. I mean, they know whose interests they serve in the end, and that is private capital. But they know what's going on, and then they say, okay, maybe we should do this one little thing so that everything doesn't blow up in our face. And then everybody screams, oh, Federal Reserve, herder taking over the country. And really, sometimes all they have is a simple reform just to keep the system from collapsing. Keep in mind, that's their ultimate function. is to keep capitalism going. And if sometimes they have to do something against the capitalists in order to get the system to work, then they're obligated to do so. But in the end, they do have to serve the interests of capital. So that's like the main contradiction there. Oh, another contradiction of capital.
Yeah, among many. You know, I was going to say something, but I forgot too, so I'm going to play it.
Even without them promoting it, these pieces of legislation are massively popular, which shows that they just have good ideas in them, like universal pre-K and child care and was it elder care? 2 years free community college. They got all these good ideas in them. They're not even promoting it, and the ideas are popular, but they're not connecting the dots for people. Saying, we're in favor of this, they're against this. We're going to fight for this. You guys love this shit. We're not going to stop until we get it done. These are phenomenal ideas. Let me explain to you why it's absolutely necessary.
If the Democrats could actually implement these and properly exercise the reform and power that they could, I'm telling you right now, the Republicans would lose the following 5 to 6 terms, and it would be nothing but House and Senate Democrats indefinitely.
The messed up thing is that in the future, the Republicans are probably going to lose. Let's face it, the demographic shift in the United States, and that's why they're trying to stop. They're trying to stop voting rights. They're doing extreme gerrymandering now, is because they know they're losing. Their traditional base of, let's be honest, white middle class people is shrinking. And that's their power base. And so now they have to gerrymander to all this stuff because they already know that they're failing. The Democrats, if they just would stop being stupid tools of capital and just do some common sense reforms, they could sweep.
They don't. That's the issue. They don't care. Like, they get paid buco bucks whether or not they win. So winning.
Look at that.
Winning clearly doesn't matter to them, dude. I'm convinced they don't even give a shit about winning.
Okay. Right before they were going to decide whether or not to extend the moratorium on the evictions, they got like $1 million donation from like a really big landlord or like a company that owns a lot of residential shit. Right before.
We need to find out who that company is. And
actually, I think I still have the link.
Yeah. No, I'm having some good ideas. We should find out who this company is and who the owners and executives are. And you know what? We should get their numbers, get their email, get their mailboxes, and
Okay, I have the thing here. Dems scored real estate cash before letting eviction expire. From a real estate mogul, the super PAC took the money.
Oh.
Okay, who was it? Okay. It's not saying who gave the money.
Well, to get things back on track.
Yeah.
So this is the main point of the stream that I'm harping away at right now. Kyle thinks it's stupidity when it's really not. It's not stupidity for why the Democrats behave the way they do. They're doing what their donors want them to do.
Okay, I can sorry to interrupt. Can I post the link somewhere?
Yeah. Go ahead and just
so you guys can see it.
Yeah, just post it and we can put it in the general.
Okay, I'll post it in the private chat and you can just move it over to the public chat.
Yeah, all right. Well, here's the article, guys. I'll go ahead and copy and paste right here. You guys can check that article out. But what I was saying is that Kyle, for whatever, well, I know the reason, will not put the dots together to connect that they're serving the interests of their donors doing what they do. It's not incompetence. It's that way by design. There are a bunch of the Democratic Party singles out and looks for careerist, opportunistic snakes that are self-serving that will ultimately be weak and won't fight. Just look at what happened with AOC and the Squad. They said they were going to fight for Medicare for all and push for Medicare for all just to totally flounder on it. And then
give the money to Israel.
Yeah, then give the money to Israel, dude. Like, they said that they were going to fight. That was AOC's main selling point, that she was a young, passionate left woman that was going to fight for these policies and reforms. And that, even if the Medicare for all got shot down on Pelosi's desk, you realize, like, how much of a propaganda tool that would have been. Like, these pragmatic leftists that are saying that, It's just gonna get shot down. What long-term purpose does it serve? It serves propaganda, dude. That's the point. But people don't fucking get it.
The edgy, cool propaganda of the Democratic Party.
People really. Americans need to grow a fucking spine already.
We have universal pre-K. Let me explain to you why the government has to work for regular people. It is absolutely infuriating how badly they're handling this. And by the way, again, they're only talking about it as a messaging problem. It's not just a messaging problem. It's also, you have to do more shit for people problem. You're not doing enough. And even the good shit you did, you don't talk about it. You don't brag about it. You don't connect the dots. And their genius idea is only going to hurt them further. Just say you're Biden Democrats. There is no, like, they're so insane. They think there's a cult of personality around Biden. People voted for Biden because his name was not Donald Trump. People tolerate Joe Biden. Everybody can tell he's half asleep in every press conference he does. And the most inspirational shit you can come up with is, I'm with the zombie. That's the most inspirational shit you can come up with. Nothing about the child tax credit. Nothing about the $1.9 trillion stimulus bill. Nothing about the stimulus checks. Nothing about the $15 minimum wage for federal workers and contractors and how many people's lives were helped as a result of that. Nothing about any of that. Nothing about fighting for a UBI or fighting for the reconciliation bill, which has a bunch of phenomenal stuff in it. Expanding Medicare. Nothing about any of that. It's unbelievable. The final point is this. This is how pathetic the Democrats are. I've never seen incompetence to this level.
Yep, that right there. Right here. Listen.
It's unbelievable. The final point is this. This is how pathetic the Democrats are. I've never seen incompetence to this level.
Yeah, no, me neither. Like, I don't understand how you can be like a college-educated poli-sci and at this point be doing journalism and political analysis as long as he has, and he still doesn't get it. Like, I really, truly don't understand like how his politics haven't evolved or improved over the years.
I will tell you why. Because in the end, like every journalist who's a poli-sci, like every politician who's a poli-sci, their still number one function is to serve the system.
Yeah.
He doesn't want a new system. He wants the one that already exists, just with a nicer face on it. The rational conclusion is capitalism is fucked and we should get rid of it. But they're not going to see that because they are wedded ideologically to that system, because I still need a profit motive to do whatever it is I do, whether that be a talk show thing there or be, a mainstream, CNN journalist that makes $70,000 a year. By the way, hire me.
Yeah, bro. This is one thing I can't stand about social democracy, but even in the countries they laud, in like Finland and Norway, like these Nordic countries they want us to be more like, the poverty rate is still around like 10% in these countries, right? So
yeah,
like,
but their poverty is different from ours.
Yeah, they still have homeless people, they still have poverty, they still have people who slip through the cracks. And okay, so when you say you want social democracy, a system like that, I mean, what are you saying, that you're content with just 10% of the population living in squalor? Like, what the fuck is that shit? But I got mines, and we can just work on it, so it's okay, right? We can't just do a system.
The capitalist mentality.
Yeah,
I need to get my let's say now we're gonna from each according to ability to each according to their work. The general socialist idea, not even the communist, each according to their anything. You know how much he would come down in money? Hey Kyle, I want you to do this fucking show for the same amount of money that I get for it. Let's see if you want to continue.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not even saying like, I think I agree with you. A lot of it does come down to class interest. Like, people like Kyle are ultimately wedded by the system. They're what S4A refers to as bourgeois media light. Like, these personalities, they're bourgeois media light. They want to be mainstream media, and they've got some good ideas. But like, the bigger that they get, I've noticed a lot of these channels. There are exceptions, but like, many of them, the bigger that they get and the more clout that they get, the more mainstream that they go. They just become more right wing, like they just become more right wing. I'm telling you, man, if socialism ever comes to America, one thing that's really going to need to be revamped is our education system. Like, people are going to need to be taught and very well versed and well educated in
God,
politics.
Not even that. They just have to include the stuff that they've been removing. Dude, what is it, like school books in Texas? literally say slavery wasn't a bad thing.
Yeah, that's a pretty low bar. Pretty damn low bar.
You're tripping on the fucking bar at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you've got the Democrats like, oh, vote for us. You know, you want to vote for our party because we only murder 9,000 children per year instead of 10,000. Like, it's such a false choice, though. Like, we don't owe the Dems or Republicans anything. We don't owe these motherfuckers anything, dude. They're part of the sick alien reptile caste that lord over us, that don't want anything to do with us, that just fucking want to milk us like cows and use us until they're done with us, man. Like, we don't owe these fuckers anything. Anybody who's like moderately left wing, I am seriously petitioning to like social democrats and libs right now, but you don't owe the Democrats anything, man. You don't owe them anything. And there isn't any power that you're going to seize from them that you couldn't seize yourself. Like, the people need to take their power independent. And that's why I like the concept of like the People's Party. Like, are you familiar with that? Like, Jimmy Dore pushed it. Now, it seems like there's a lot of opportunism and lack of theory, but within parties like that, I see good work that can possibly be done, you know?
Until the state shuts them down.
Yeah, but, well.
But, I mean, better than nothing.
Well, what I'm saying is that
at least let them know you're serious.
These quote-unquote revisionist parties, so to speak, you know, these rightist parties, I mean, they're about as far left as you can get, and provided they aren't too compromised, there is reasonable work you can do within them to, like, agitate and shift the discourse further left, all right? The issue with Marxist-Leninist orgs in the United States, I'm not saying you shouldn't be in an ML org, but the issue with a lot of these orgs is that they're really small and obscure, and they don't have any political clout or they don't have the numbers, they don't have the clout, they don't have the influence. But the DSA does, like the Movement for a People's Party, Green Party, they do, even though they are, for all intents and purposes, just petty bourgeois socialists. I mean, they're better than nothing. They're all we've got, and I think that there is potential to genuinely push them left and, you know, make breeding grounds for more radical politics. So, you know, like what like the liberals always say about pushing the Democrats further left, right? The thing that's never going to happen. You could actually do this with like a Movement for a People's Party or Green Party. So like what he wants to do with Justice Dems and how it failed and flopped miserably, you could actually do that in these circles because there's already like the kernel for like post-capitalist thought within many of them.
Gotta push it left. Left, push that.
Yeah. The Democrats are never going to get pushed left. Sorry, not going to happen. They're just going to keep saying they're going to do these things, but then when push comes to shove, they're ultimately not going to fight for it. Did you know that Capitol Hill protesters just got, like, that the government just banned protesting in front of the Capitol building, and it was just a bunch of people that were protesting for an extension on the moratoriums or rent forgiveness. So they just drove off a bunch of protesters. Isn't that crazy?
Please don't make me homeless. I'm sorry. Best I can do is not let you protest.
They just keep criminalizing protest. This video is getting longer than it needs to be. I'm going to keep playing.
Now understand, the corporate Democrats are corrupt. And so on the one hand, they don't want to do a lot of these good things, but also put that aside. Because even if you don't want to do those things, they do want to win, but they can't even figure out basic shit in order to win. They're so incompetent. They are so immensely incompetent. They're now losing to a Republican Party that has only been yelping and bitching and moaning about cancel culture and wokeness the entire time Biden's been in office. That's all they do. That's all they do. Oh my God, Dr. Seuss this, Dr. Seuss that, Mr. Potato Head this, Mr. Potato Head that. Simone Biles, get your ass back in there. Fuck anxiety or depression or ADHD. I don't care if you have the twisties and you're going to break your fucking neck. Get in there because America. All they've been doing is talking about nonsense, cultural, social issues bullshit with zero connection to policy, and they're up 6 points on the Democrats. They're up 6 points on the party that did the stimulus checks and did the child tax credit and did the $15 an hour minimum wage for federal workers and federal contractors. How stupid are you? Anybody who materially improves people's lives has a built-in advantage. A built-in advantage. And you can't fucking win. You can't fucking do it. You can't hold the lead. You can't do anything right.
You literally just gave us the reason why you should stop shitting on Stalin.
Yeah, I would agree.
Stalin evil. Stalin literally did so much for the material conditions that you just talked about.
I mean, that's sort of the way it is when you have a ruling class that controls the history and will jade the perspective of history to their favor. Individuals who come to the world who left it a better place, like objectively left the world a better place, and they end up getting demonized. They end up getting compared by the people that made the world a worse place. You've got one guy over here starts the Holocaust, other guy here ends the Holocaust, and somehow they're the same thing. Anyways,
You don't brag about the good shit you did, and you don't fight for more new good shit. So now you're being beaten by people who haven't said a goddamn word about unions or the economy.
yeah, because the people who vote Republican are ultimately not economically insecure. The people that vote Democrat are overwhelmingly economic insecure and people of color. Mind you, people of color are disproportionately affected by both the pandemic and the coming rent moratorium crash. But
And
yeah,
that's another thing they do. I mean, they turn around to black people, don't give them any significant reform, and they go, "What are you going to do? Vote
Yeah.
Republican?"
exactly. I mean, yeah, and then the Republicans will be like, "Oh, the Democrats are a plantation." Fuck you, dude.
Is he awake? Wake him up. He looks like he's asleep. Can he talk today? Did you give him his medicine? But he's hammering away at it. I don't know what to tell you. You're down 6 points
Turn it
to a
up.
bunch of fucking idiots who can't shut up about cultural garbage.
Yeah, so on the whole cultural garbage thing, like I said, people who vote Republican in general, many of them are. I mean, I hate to paint with such a broad brush, but there's only two people I've ever known who vote Republican: working class individuals who live paycheck to paycheck on the skin of their teeth that are just really stupid and like don't know what's good for them. Just people that have been conditioned their whole life to be like willfully ignorant on political issues. And then on the other hand, you just have people that are not economically poor off whatsoever. They're usually economically well off, like mid-class, upper-class individuals. I mean, around my neighborhood, there's Trump signs galore. I put up a sign in front of my house that said, "Billionaires are thieves. They didn't earn it. You did." And within a week's time, someone tore that sign in half. Within not even a week's time, several days later, some old lady ripped it in half and threw it in the garbage.
Some goddamn, Stockholm syndrome piece of shit.
Yeah, that's how bleak things are looking. I fucking hate the suburbs. Like, seriously, we need to firebomb when the revolution comes. We're redoing all of this. We're redoing all this city and countryside shit. We're going to take all these fucking suburbs and we're going to firebomb. We're going to firebomb all this shit, level it, and we're going to have it reclaimed by wilderness because suburbs, they do something to the human psyche that just make people like really shitty. And they also have a really high carbon footprint. They're ultra spread out. So you need a car to get around. They're wasteful. They're inefficient. They're expensive as goddamn hell. Like, there's literally no advantages to the suburbs from a genuinely rational economic standpoint. They're just profitable. But anyways, that's my suburb rant. Oh my god. Oh Lord. So yeah, this is going to be my new thumbnail. No, not you. What we got here is going to be my new thumbnail. What I drew earlier. Yeah. So basically this. I'm aggravated, bro. I'm aggravated because he's been saying the same shit for years and he hasn't put two and two together. It's absolutely fucking absurd. Like how people just like, because my politics, I'm telling you right now, like my thought process is not the same as it was like several years ago. I was always like changing my thoughts and views, but I mean, even now that I'm communist, like my views are always changing. They're still evolving. They're not just static. I genuinely feel sorry for people that don't read books or don't go out of their way to educate themselves or improve themselves politically or like in their rationality or thought process. But there is something else I wanted to say. I want to talk about right-wing politics briefly. All right. Angkar moments. What's Angkar?
Oh, year one, Pol Pot.
Oh, right. Because I want all suburbs bulldozed and emptied. Unironically, yeah. No, fuck suburbs. Fucking hate suburbs. But anyways, bulldoze all the suburbs. Make the world a better place. But anyways, so I want to comment a little bit about right-wing politics and why people get ensnared in that pitfall. I think that there's an element of anti-politics to right-wing, more specifically libertarian politics. You ever notice that? There's an element of anti-politics to their politics.
Yeah.
And this is something that I wanted to make a video about after I get finished with my tactical nuke that I will tell you about off screen. But I don't want to spoil the surprise. But there's an element of anti-politics to right-wing politics. So when they say, get your government out of my bedroom, get your government out of this or that, or, they, except when banning, abortion, but keep your government hands off my guns. Why do we got to talk about LGBT issues all the time? Why do I have to pay taxes? The strong, cancerous individualist mindset, or, there's other examples of it as well, but fundamentally, like right-wing politics, at the heart of it, it is opposed to change. It is opposed to struggle. It is anti-politics made manifest. Many don't want to look too deep into things. They don't want to think too much about various subjects. It's mirrored by that element of anti-intellectualism, actually. Anti-intellectualism is like a cornerstone of like Republican libertarian thought. I'm telling you right now, man, if most people in this country were actually taught proper history, economics, and philosophy, right-wing ideology would be gone within like 2 generations time. Like in a generation, 2 generations, there would be no more fucking Republicans, libertarians, I'd be willing to bet you wouldn't see any white supremacist cells either, fascist cells, Like, you would just obliterate right and far right thought. And that would be very lit. Everyone in the U.S. that is pro-capitalist is right-wing. So then, yeah, by that definition, literally everyone, like Kulinski, Pacman, everyone on the big sphere of YouTube, they're literally all right-wingers then. I don't go by that definition because it will depress the fuck out of me knowing that, like, 95% of people who care are just all right-wing. Most people are not socialists. Give Mr. Sunday control. Yeah, he can be in control of the Ministry of Education. Jason can be in control of the NKVD. Fuck, I don't know what I want.
Maybe you don't want me to do that. A lot of people are going to go missing.
Yeah, that's why I want you in charge of the NKVD.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Just giving you a heads up.
Just the sentiment of anti-capitalism isn't a leftist monopoly. Yeah, you've got weird third way individuals and
Primitivists.
Neo-fascists, monarchists, primitivists, distributists.
But they all suck at it.
Yeah. Not scientific, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, to me, primitivism is just like the ultimate reactionary ideology, honestly.
It's a cop-out. It's like saying, I can't figure this out, fuck it.
Yeah.
Like, okay, did you see the debate between Charlie Kirk and Bosch?
No, I did not. How was it? 2 people that don't know jack about shit?
Well, one knew jack and the other knew shit. So together they knew jack shit.
Gotcha.
Let's say Bosch said says something, and then Charlie Kirk said, "I agree," a lot.
Gotcha. You know what
that
really
should tell you something right there.
You know what really depresses me is that we're gonna get a new left is being fostered and cultivated, and it's just a left wing of people that are going to be woefully impotent and utterly useless when it comes to getting things done.
Yeah,
just a bunch of pampered little babies. Like,
we had the Democrats, then we had the SJWs, now we have the Radlibs.
Yeah, the Radlibs are the blight of the American left. Like anyone who is unironically sitting here who's like arguing against issues like force the vote, that despises people that are just like Jimmy Dore and further left. I'm not saying you can't have criticisms of Dore. I have my criticisms of Jimmy Dore, all right? He's far from perfect, but
Jimmy Dore needs more guns.
the issue is, like, anyone who... The type of people that voted for Biden on the pretense that they were going to push him left, and then when push comes to shove, they're taking policies to his right, basically. Anyways, right-wing anti-capitalism is when Asians are better at it than whites. True story. Have you seen did you see the debate with Infrared and Perspective Philosophy? They debated veganism. I watched about a half hour of it, but it was really fucking boring. I'm not gonna lie. Haas is really boring when he's not screaming. So, yeah.
All right, just remember you said that, not me.
Well, anyways, I think that's all for now. I just wanted to do this stream because Kyle pisses me off with how much it's like so obvious, you know? Like, it's obvious to anyone who's paying attention. Like, and I'm not even saying it's just malice or corruption. I'm just saying, like,
you know what it's like? You ever watch those video game streams where you're watching somebody play a game and the exit's right in front of them, and they're like, they keep going around in like all the different corners looking for the exit, and it's right in front of them, and you're like shaking your fucking monitors right there.
I know. And the ultimate consequence of people like this is if people don't really stand for something, then they'll kind of fall for anything, so to speak. So a lot of these sock dems, I've noticed, you know, it's the fact that they have such large audiences and people haven't come to like a further left conclusion that's part of the problem. Because like when I see like these channels, there's also a lot of overlap between these subscriber bases. I got into arguments about socialism. Like, people in Kyle's comments section will furiously argue against communism. Like, I talked to a guy who was a social democrat, but he was like a landlord. And he's like, I'd side with the government against you in a revolution. I'm like, well, okay, fuck you too, you know?
This is like better red than dead. No,
Exactly.
but better dead than red. And I'm like, that's
no,
the plan.
Like there's a bunch of anti-communists that all pride themselves on their pragmatism, you know? That's just the way it is. They pride
It's like
themselves.
people who pride themselves on what they're against rather than what they're for.
Yeah, no, they pride themselves on being the nice, safe, clean moderates that don't actually like stand for anything like truly radical or change-worthy, you know? They're the...
I'll put it to you this way. Vosh is the so-called socialist that you let your parents meet, and we're the socialists that you end up denying you know in court.
Yeah. Oh, man. I can't wait until I get this video out there. It's going to be the last time I'm going to be talking about him on my channel, like literally my last video. It's going to be my coup de grace, and I am going to share it with you right now. Haha, you guys can't see it. I'll upload it later, but I'm going to head out. See you guys.